Absolutely. Here's an expanded version of scene 1 to about 1,000 words. Dash dash dash. The scrapyard stretched as far as Ramesh's eyes could see, a chaotic labyrinth of twisted metal, discarded machinery, and rusting vehicles that groaned under the weight of neglect. The sun had begun its descent, painting the sky in shades of amber and rose, casting a warm glow over the jagged piles of iron and steel. The air was thick with a metallic tang, mixed with the faint, acrid smell of oil and dust that clung to every surface. Ramesh adjusted the strap of his backpack and wiped the sweat from his brow. He had never stepped into a place like this before. Most of his life had been spent studying, working odd office jobs, and dreaming of a future he wasn't quite sure he deserved. He looked around, taking in the cacophony of activity. Men moved between heaps of scrap, their faces streaked with grime, voices calling over the clamor of banging metal and grinding machines. A truck rumbled past, loaded with crushed cars, metal pieces clinking together like the chaotic music of some industrial symphony. For a moment, Ramesh felt out of place, like a fragile piece of glass in a furnace. Then he noticed the man approaching. He was older, perhaps in his late 50s, with broad shoulders and a gait that suggested decades of hard work. His overalls were faded and stained, a cap pulled low over his eyes. His boots crunched over the gravel as he drew closer, and Ramesh felt the weight of his gaze. There was something commanding about the man, though it was tempered by a rough, almost gruff exterior. "Ah, you must be Ramesh," the man said, extending a calloused hand. His voice carried the authority of someone used to being obeyed, but also the caution of someone who had seen too many opportunists in his lifetime. "I'm Mr. Sharma." Ramesh hesitated for a moment before shaking his hand firmly. "Yes, sir. I'm here to work, sir. I'm willing to do anything." Mr. Sharma studied him closely, his eyes narrowing slightly. "Anything, huh?" he said, a faint smile tugging at the corner of his lips. "This place isn't like an office. There are no clean desks, no air conditioning, no neat files. Here, every piece of metal matters. Every transaction matters. People try to cheat you. They try to take advantage. Can you handle that?" "I can, sir," Ramesh replied, his voice steady despite the flutter in his chest. "Good," Sharma said, clapping him on the shoulder once, firmly. "Then let's see what you've got. Start by sorting those piles over there. Metals separate by type, check for quality, and don't throw anything away. Every piece tells a story. Understand that, and you'll understand the work." Ramesh nodded and bent down to pick up a sheet of rusted iron. The weight of it surprised him, and he grunted as he set it on the designated pile. Around him, other workers moved with practiced ease, their hands skilled at identifying what could be sold and what was useless. Ramesh felt awkward at first, fumbling as he tried to discern the different metals, but he didn't let frustration show. Every now and then, he glanced at Sharma, who stood silently, watching with an intensity that made Ramesh's muscles tense. Hours passed. The sun inched lower, and the shadows lengthened, stretching over the jagged piles of scrap like dark fingers. Ramesh's hands became raw and blistered, his shirt sticking to his back with sweat. Yet he worked steadily, determined not to falter, determined not to let the man's gaze detect even a hint of weakness. When a truck pulled up, Ramesh straightened, wiping his hands on a rag. Two men jumped out, carrying a load of copper wires and old machinery. Sharma observed silently as Ramesh stepped forward, inspecting the materials with careful attention. He weighed pieces in his hands, checked the wires for quality, and even asked questions about the origin of the scrap. When the sellers tried to inflate the price, Ramesh remained calm, negotiating fairly but firmly. He refused a shady deal that would have earned him a quick reward, choosing instead to stick to honesty. Sharma's eyes never left him. By late afternoon, Ramesh's back ached, his arms trembled, and his mind was foggy with fatigue, but he felt a quiet sense of pride swelling within him. For the first time in his life, he felt like he was proving something tangible, not to his teachers, not to his friends, but to himself. Sharma approached, his gait measured, boots crunching over the gravel. "You've got guts, boy," he said, placing a hand on Ramesh's shoulder. "I like that, but guts aren't everything. This work, it's not just about lifting heavy things or knowing metal. It's about patience, about integrity, about seeing beyond the surface. You've got potential, but potential isn't enough. Character is what matters. Don't forget that." Ramesh nodded, swallowing the lump in his throat. "I understand, sir. Thank you for giving me a chance." Sharma's gaze softened slightly, though his demeanor remained stern. "Chance? This isn't about chances. This is about proving who you are. And believe me, I've seen plenty of people fail when they thought they were ready. Money, convenience, shortcuts, they'll tempt you. If you can resist all of that, if you can hold on to honesty even when no one's watching, then you're a man I can respect. Ramesh felt the weight of those words, and for a moment, the noise of the scrapyard seemed to fade, leaving just him and the man who had chosen to test him in the harshest of ways. He realized this wasn't merely labor, it was a lesson in life, in humility, in the quiet strength of character. As evening approached, the yard began to empty, the last of the workers heading home, trucks rumbling away with their loads. Sharma stayed behind, watching Ramesh carefully place the final pieces in their proper piles. The young man wiped his hands on a cloth, sweat and grime streaking his face, yet there was a sense of calm determination in his expression. Sharma gave a nod, almost imperceptible, and turned toward the gate. Rest tonight. Tomorrow, the work will be different. You'll have to make decisions, not just lift and sort. Be ready. Ramesh watched him go, the sun dipping below the horizon, casting long, flickering shadows across the jagged landscape of metal. In that moment, he felt something shift inside him. This place, harsh and unforgiving as it was, had already taught him more than any classroom, any office, or any textbook ever could. And though he did not yet know the full purpose behind this test, he felt a strange sense of anticipation and resolve. As he gathered his tools and prepared to leave, Ramesh couldn't shake the feeling that the man watching him, seemingly just another laborer in a scrapyard, had already seen something in him that he had not yet fully seen in himself. Something that mattered far more than strength or skill, something far more valuable. If you want, I can also expand scene 2 to 1000 words in the same detailed, immersive style so the full story matches. Do you want me to do that next? Absolutely. Here's an expanded, immersive version of scene 2 at around 1000 words. The next morning, the scrapyard was alive with a new energy. The sun had barely risen, casting a pale golden light over the rusted piles of metal and oil-stained machinery. Ramesh arrived earlier than usual, his backpack slung over one shoulder, his mind buzzing with a mix of anticipation and nervousness. Yesterday's labor had been grueling, but it had also left him with a quiet pride he hadn't felt before. He felt ready for whatever came next, or so he thought. As he approached the office at the far corner of the yard, Mr. Sharma was already there, standing by a cluttered desk, papers and receipts scattered in organized chaos. His overalls were still streaked with grease, and his cap sat low over his eyes, but there was an unmistakable authority in the way he moved. Ramesh, Sharma called, his voice steady, yet carrying a weight that made Ramesh's stomach tighten. Today, you're not just lifting metal. You're managing. I want you to oversee this incoming shipment. Handle every transaction. Inspect every piece of scrap. Negotiate with the sellers. And I mean honestly, don't cut corners. I'll be watching, but I won't intervene. Understand? Yes, sir, Ramesh said, trying to steady his racing heart. He had never managed anything of this scale before, and the thought of failure made his palms sweat. But beneath that nervousness, there was a spark, a determination to prove himself. Sharma handed him a thick stack of papers, invoices and order sheets filled with numbers, weights, and prices. This shipment has value beyond what you see. Every piece counts. Remember, your choices will show me the kind of man you are. Ramesh took a deep breath and began. The morning passed in a blur of activity. Trucks arrived one after another, each bringing a new load of scrap, twisted copper wires, broken machinery, discarded steel beams. Ramesh moved from truck to truck, inspecting materials, weighing them carefully, asking detailed questions about origins and quality. He negotiated prices, sometimes lowering them, sometimes defending the seller's fair value. A man arrived with a crate of aluminum sheets, clearly attempting to pass off some low-quality scrap as premium material. Ramesh frowned, examining the pieces, tapping and bending them gently. These are far too thin for what you claim, he said, his voice firm but polite. I can't pay your price for this batch. The man's face flushed with frustration. Come on, kid, I know a good deal when I see it. Don't be difficult. Ramesh held his ground. I'm not trying to be difficult. I'm trying to be fair, to both of us. If these were the right grade, the price would be fair. As it stands, I can't accept them. Sharma, standing at a distance and watching silently, allowed the exchange to unfold. He wanted to see whether Ramesh could resist the temptation of taking the easy route, a quick profit, a minor compromise. The young man's steadfastness impressed him. As the day progressed, challenges kept coming. A truck overloaded with copper wiring arrived, and one of the workers suggested Ramesh turn a blind eye to some missing paperwork to speed up the sale. A few minutes later, a potential buyer hinted at paying extra if Ramesh cut a small corner in reporting the shipment. Each time, Ramesh paused, weighed his options, and chose integrity over expedience. He felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders, not just the physical labor, but the ethical demands of the position. By mid-afternoon, fatigue began to creep in. His arms were sore from lifting, his head throbbed from concentration, and his fingers were streaked with grime. Yet, he refused to stop, refusing to let even a moment of exhaustion compromise his judgment. Sharma finally approached as the sun hung low in the sky, illuminating the scrapyard in amber light. Ramesh was meticulously tallying the final numbers for the day, checking the invoices against the materials, ensuring that every sheet, every wire, every scrap piece was accounted for. He wiped sweat from his brow and leaned back slightly, only to see Sharma standing there, silently observing. "You've done well," Sharma said, his voice low and deliberate. "Better than well, actually. You've managed more today than most experienced men could handle. And you did it honestly. That's rare, Ramesh. Extremely rare." Ramesh looked up, breathing heavily, his chest rising and falling. "Thank you, sir. I just did what I thought was right." Sharma smiled faintly, a warmth in his eyes that had been absent before. "Yes, and that's exactly what I wanted to see. The truth is, money and convenience tempt most people. They will try to take shortcuts if no one's watching. But you didn't falter, even when it would have been easy." Ramesh felt a strange mixture of relief and curiosity. "Sir, may I ask, why are you testing me like this?" "Why the scrapyard?" Sharma chuckled softly, then removed his cap and coat in one swift motion, revealing a crisp, well-tailored suit underneath. His beard was neatly trimmed, and his entire appearance radiated wealth and sophistication, a stark contrast to the grizzled scrap dealer Ramesh had been speaking to all day. "I'm not a scrap dealer, Ramesh," he said calmly, letting the words sink in. "I'm the owner of a multinational company. And, I'm also your future father-in-law." Ramesh froze, disbelief etched on his face. His hands instinctively went to his mouth. I don't understand. This whole time, you were testing me." Sharma nodded, a small smile forming. "Exactly. I needed to know who you really are, not who you pretend to be, not what you show to the world. Money, status, wealth, they can tempt anyone. But honesty, integrity, perseverance, those are the things that define a man. And today, you've shown me that you possess them all." Ramesh's chest swelled with a mixture of relief and pride. He laughed nervously, then exhaled, finally letting the tension drain from his body. "So, I passed." "You did," Sharma said warmly, his tone now completely devoid of the sternness from earlier. "You passed not just the test, but the measure of character I was looking for. And now, it's time for you to meet my daughter." Ramesh felt a rush of emotions, excitement, nervousness, gratitude, all intertwining in a whirlwind. He had come to the scrapyard expecting to work hard, perhaps prove himself in some small way, but never in his wildest dreams had he imagined this outcome. As they walked together through the yard, Sharma talking quietly about responsibility and character, Ramesh realized something profound. The test had not been just for the father-in-law's benefit, it had been for his own. He had discovered the depth of his resilience, the strength of his ethics, and the importance of staying true to himself, no matter the temptation or the hardship. The scrapyard, once a place of sweat and struggle, now seemed almost sacred to him. It had forged him in a way no classroom or office ever could. And as he followed Sharma toward the city streets, toward a future he had worked hard to earn, he felt a deep sense of pride, purpose, and anticipation for the next chapter of his life, a chapter that promised love, respect, and the reward of integrity. If you want, I can now also create cinematic image prompts for both scenes, so you can visualize this story visually for storytelling or illustration purposes.